right, give us a hand. I am so happy you're here. Oh my gosh, the best people. I'm really blessed. So anyway, what we've got is something that I've taught many times, and I hear people say and do things. I'm like, and I ask, didn't you ever hear that teaching? They go, yeah. I'm like, okay. So what's the problem? Is that we interpret from our own experiences, not from what is being said. So there's a discrepancy between what we think and what is reality. So as much as I try and open up greater reality, everybody wants to go back to the way it was, and they expect everything to be really simple. And life is a little bit more complex, but it's simplified as you go. How many have ever been inside of a city? Nobody's been inside of a city. Okay, inside of a city. Okay. Now it looks really complicated on the ground, right? But if you go 20,000 feet, 40,000 feet, and look down, you pretty much get it. You can see the whole thing. Even though it's complex, because you're seeing it from a higher level, you go, I see how it works. And you can see this car speeding. You see the policeman coming up here. Okay, well, we know what's going to happen here. All right, we can see, we can know what's going on. We see the whole bunch of cars coming in because it's 4 o'clock and they're leaving work and they're coming out. You know there's going to be congestion there. I mean, you can see from the overall bigger view. But when you're on the ground, you can't see it. What happens is we get so far on the ground that we wind up in the grass, and we don't even see everything. We miss majority of what's going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you back a little bit, because we're going to be covering something called the third alternative. Do you know what a third alternative is? Right. Well, we're going to understand that and what the difference is between normal decision making and making a decision with the Word of God. Does that sound interesting? This will make you exceptional in everything you do, if you maintain it. If you don't, well, so Father, thank you for the greatness of your Word, and thank you for helping me to teach, that your people may truly apply it and see the greater aspect of life, to see it from the 40,000-foot level, to be able to see things before they occur, and to be able to overcome every situation. For it is you, Father, who guide us to greater understanding, to grow, to learn, to walk within your shadow, and the footsteps of your firstborn from the dead are risen, and return, Lord Jesus, you're anointed. Okay, so now I'm going to try and I'm going to bring in some cognitive science. I'm going to bring in the Word of God, and I'm going to bring in the balance between what is real and what is perceived as real. Does that make sense? Because we're getting into a time where we have artificial intelligence. Does anyone know what artificial intelligence is? No one knows. No one know what real intelligence is. Okay. I got some of that. So what's real intelligence? Right? It's just like, my dog's smart. Well, I'm smart. So does that mean my dog and me are the same intelligence? No. So there's that which is artificial, which is not life. It has no life within it. And that's what we're getting into now. We have some of the most advanced, GPT-3 is absolutely astounding, and we've got the next version of it coming out, which you cannot tell it's different. You cannot tell the difference between it and a human being. They're that able to communicate, to reason, to think, to write music, to write poetry. It's quite amazing. But are they alive? No. Do they have knowledge? Yes. Tremendous knowledge. And they know the answer to every question. But do they have wisdom? Because they don't understand what their actions have in response to life. Do they have understanding? No. But do everybody have wisdom? No, they don't. Does everybody have understanding? No, they don't. Well, can the AI write music? Yes. Can you? Does that mean the AI is smarter than you? The AI can beat every human being in chess. I play chess. It beats me, therefore it's smarter than me. Wait a minute. Don't confuse life with intelligence. There's a lot of people that are alive that are dumber than a bucket of rocks, and they're quite beautiful people, right? I'm not inferring anyone in particular, but you understand, How many know people that just aren't really that sharp, but you love them to death, right? You just love them. Does that make sense? So it has nothing to do with intelligence, but life is far greater than that. So let's review some things. We're talking about the true way of life, the way God designed it, the way it's been standardized for almost 12,000 years to show how mankind is. The Word of God's not interested on the what? Outside. It's interested on the what? Inside, the heart, the soul, the mind. That's all it's interested in. That's all it addresses. That all it responds to. It doesn't respond to anything on the outside. What if I have a really, magnificent hat? That means nothing, right? What if I get dressed up, if I came out here in pajamas? It doesn't mean anything to God. It may mean something to you, right? But not to God. If I came out here in a swimsuit, how would that happen? You'd all be running out the door, okay? So I understand the difference, but everything has to be applied. Like the AI suggested the lawyer go to, they said, well, this is a sports thing, and this whole court is about sports. And so the AI recommended him going to the court in a swimsuit. That lawyer in a swimsuit would not work. But it didn't understand how it relates. It knew the answers, but didn't understand the scope of this. So as we get more and more in AI, it's becoming more and more part of our how many have already experienced AI? You have experienced? You ain't seen nothing yet. We're going to be having a lot more. We're going to have synthetic people on. You're going to be talking to people that aren't real, that are generated by the AI, and you can't tell them that they're not real. They look that much. And the computer will figure out who you are and then find someone compatible to you, and that's who you'll be talking to. Just give you a heads up on it. The name of the company is promoting this as Soul Machines. But anyway, the AI is quite impressive. So what does it mean? What does this thing do that keeps our ears from slapping together? What is its purpose? So, if it wasn't there, our eyes would be sucked in, our ears would flap together. No. There's something more to that than what we'd assume, okay? Or what we would guess. So, we're going to be discussing what's called the third alternative, right? Now, people go, that sounds really strange. You mean third alternative to a brain? No, the subject matter is decision making. You see, you and I, how many have ever made decisions? And then after you make your decision, like, where was my brain? Right? Remember say that? You ever had that? Like, how dumb can I get? Why did I do that? Right? Anyone ever have that experience where you make a decision like, oh, what the hell did I do? Nobody? Oh, okay. Right. So it looks like this went out or, dimmed down or maybe was offline, right? So you're like, what the hell's going on? Well, this is something that happens to us all the time. And the question is, how do you make decisions? You ever wonder about that? How many here make decisions? All right. Well, how do you make them? You ever analyze yourself? I mean, you sit back and go, how? I mean, the only person you know the most about is you. So if I ask you, when you make decisions, how do you make them? You're the one, I mean, you live with you for all day long, right? And you sleep with yourself. So you know how you think, you live with you work with you. So how do you make decisions? How do you make the decisions? Does anybody ever curious about these besides me? How do I come to that stupid conclusion? Then I have a wife. I'm like, how the hell did she get that idea? Right? Where did that come from, right? But there's something going on between the ears, something that's happening, right? And this makes us human. Thank God for that. Okay. So how do you make decisions? You ever thought about it? I mean, I take the time right now and think about it. How do you make decisions? How do you weigh them? Now, if you take the scientific method, you'll be looking at probabilities. Well, if I do this, the probability is going to be this. If I take this, the probability of this happening is greatly increased. The probability of that, you look at probabilities. That's in risk, managing risk. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your daily decisions. Someone says, hey, let's go to lunch. And you go, Why is there that pause? What's going on when you pause? When someone says, hey, let's go to lunch. And you go, why? What are you thinking about? Go back and think about the last decision you made. What was it that went on in your brain? I mean, it's your brain. You were there the whole time. You were present. What was going on? What was going on? What happened? And how did you come to the conclusion you did? When you go to the market and you got apples and you got bananas, and you go, I only need one fruit. Which one will it be, an apple or a banana? So you get a dozen apples, or do you get a bunch of bananas? How do you know which one to get? How do you make that decision? Don't you ever wonder about these things? It drives me nuts. Like, why did I do that? You ever had those situations? Nobody? I'm the only weirdo, huh? Okay. Well, here, let's look at this. We're going to dissect it. Not like in biology, we're going to open it up here. No. But what we are going to do is kind of examine, because our words give us away. All right, I want you to lift one of your hands in the air. Lift one of your hands in the air. All right. Now you decided which one that was. What went on when you made that decision which one to raise? You understand? You made a decision. I said, lift one of your hands. And there was a pause, and then you lifted one of your hands. Some of you lifted your left hand, others lifted your right hand. But what went on in making that decision? Did you ever wonder about these things? How do you make decisions? All right, let's stop and look at a little baby. Well, that's not a real baby, that's a silhouette. But understand, there's a little rugrat, curtain climber, carpet commander. All right, when this little guy makes decisions, how does he do it? In fact, he makes decisions so fast, it's like 300 milliseconds. He sees it and goes, right? He puts it right in his mouth. He makes a decision. I want to eat that, right? Doesn't make any difference what's on the ground. Doesn't make any difference. It's going in the mouth, right? He made that decision, right? It goes in. Bottom line, that's what he does. So why doesn't he take that 7-second pause like we do? He has to think, or else he wouldn't respond. What's going on? He immediately does, and we got to watch him like a hawk, right? Because we have no idea what he's going to do next. Because he doesn't, he thinks, but it's not built on logic. It's built on what? Emotions. He just responds. And you have to watch him. You have to be his intellect. You have to be his guardian. You have to be the one that supplies that which is missing, which is intelligence. Does that make sense? How many have ever been around these little guys, right?
The instinct of the individual doesn't have nothing to do with that action.
Instinct is already in there, right? But aside from that, where is instinct in the bathroom? There is no instinct in the right. There's no instinct in there. Where is instinct in plugging something in an electrical circuit, like a bobby pin? See, that's like no, right? So these little mini guys, these mini people, are not really abundant in intelligence at this point. You gotta be their intelligence for them. You gotta watch them like a hawk. You'd be surprised at how much evil befalls children if you leave them alone. They're very evil. What are they missing? In understanding, intelligence. They're lacking knowledge, they're lacking wisdom, and they have zero what? Understanding. The next step up is Johnny Two Legs, right? Tornado, wham, shoo, wham. They're running around the house, and you say, don't run. They go, okay, and bang, they knock over things and break things. So they know they have intelligence, but what's the problem? It's not a heck of a lot. And if there's anything going to be broken in the house that's above the table, like about this high, it's going to be broken by him. Below the table is going to be broken by him, right? This little guy is like is trouble on two legs, right? Pew, and he's always running. Wham, wham, typhoon, tornado, right? Whew. He's going like a bat out of hell. But that's what he do. And you gotta oh man, energy. Can you imagine me having 1/10 of his energy? Phew. But it's nonstop. So everything is exciting. Everything is like the first thing comes in his mind. What does he do? He does it. He doesn't. It's like instantaneous. Coming to mind. He just does it. Right? What's the problem? Same problem this one has. They have a desire and they made a judgment and then acted on it. No thinking involved. Who's got to be the one thinking? You are to be the one that they're thinking. They can't think on their own. You got to train them. Well, don't they automatically know to go potty training? No, you got to potty train them. They won't go all by themselves. Well, they need a choice. No, they don't need a choice. You don't give them a choice. You teach them. You cannot because there ain't no little guy that's going to let you put a diaper on his ass. He's going to take that thing off, as well as his shoes, and he's just going to run around naked if he can. And he sure as hell ain't going to be potty trained unless you sit his ass down and make him learn how to use the toilet. Yes or no? So what's wrong? He doesn't understand social norms. He doesn't understand how things work. And he doesn't understand, wash your hands. I washed my hands. No, you didn't. Wash your hands, Don't put that in your mouth. You still got to tell it to him. He's the kid that when he's got candy in his mouth that falls out and falls in the dirt, he picks it up and puts it back in his mouth. Don't do that, right? That's this guy. Lacks knowledge, definitely lacks wisdom, has zero understanding. Better than this, but not much. Now here we go. Hoo-wee. So we move from 6 months to 3 years old. Now we're in the 6-year-old, 7-year-old now. Now this is where there's intelligence there, real intelligence. And it likes the toilet and sees the toilet paper. And he puts the toilet paper in the toilet and flushes it and watches the toilet paper go, wee, and he goes, that is so cool. What else can we flush down the toilet? That's what kids do, right? Now, if you catch him doing that, what are you doing, right? But they don't understand. It's fun, right? Don't leave one of these guys alone in the house with a fan. Oh my gosh, they'll throw all kinds of stuff through it just to watch it splatter, right? Gotta be careful. They're imaginative, they're clever, they're intelligent, and they have zero wisdom and understanding. How many remember getting in trouble as a kid? Do you remember what you got in trouble for? I got in all kinds of trouble. A whole bunch of it. But Frank, weren't you a little... No, I was not. I was a little hellion. But, but that goes with the territory, right? All right, so this guy is out to try and do everything and doesn't care about the consequences. He's just going to do it. He's just going to do it. You just do it. Comes to mind, do it. And this is where most of these guys wind up in the hospital. They don't think. They don't consider the consequences. And that's why they need supervision, preferably adult supervision, unless the adult has the same deficiency. Then we got problems, right? Then, after a while, comes senior teenager, right? Everything he thought was wrong. Everything he assumed was wrong. Everything he understood was wrong. His whole world is devastated. And he finds out, unlike here, where they think they're the center of the universe, he finds out he's not. Because when I was growing up, I thought I was the center of the universe. That everything evolved around me. So I was in a video, one of those little video cameras someone had, those old 9mm. And I was by the pool, and I realized I was no different than anybody else. And that shocked my world. I'm just one of many. I'm not a soloist. I'm a member of the choir. So that's very disheartening for a teenager to find out you are not the center of the world. Everything does not evolve around you and your decisions, because if you disappeared, the earth would not miss you. And I've had many teenagers come to me, the parents are like, oh, he's trying to kill himself, he's trying to kill himself. And I said, why are you doing? And his perspective of trying to kill himself to punish the world. Because they don't realize how valuable he is. I'm like, really? Wow. Let me introduce you to the morgue. Took him down to the morgue and had them see all these people that were dead. Notice they died and it had no effect on anybody. I assure you, if you die, no one's really going to care. Except for maybe a couple hours or a day, and that's it. You have, right now, no value in society unless you develop yourself and become an asset to society, an asset to the country, or to God. Your choice. Otherwise, you mean absolutely what? Nothing. So that's all disheartening for a teenager. How many have ever been a teenager? How much had a wonderful time as a teenager? No hand goes up. Because everything that went wrong there. And it was amazing. The reason I draw him like that is exactly what it feels like. Everything you thought. I mean, I've been watching TV. I know all about life. TV does not tell you. All problems, even the end of the world, can be taken care of in 45 minutes. That's true on television, but not in real life. People just fall instantly in love. No, they don't. If it falls instantly in, you can fall instantly out. This is what destroys a teenage perception of reality. And we've all been teenagers, yes? We all had heartaches, yes? Disappointment, disillusionment. But after we get all through that, we make it. No, we're still what? We're still learning that our perceptions aren't what we thought they were. But we still keep on trying. We don't quit. So let's diagram this out, shall we? Just to make a diagram. This is minimum amount of intelligence and understanding and the best that you can have in intelligent understanding. So I'm going to graph it for you. That wasn't it. Hosea 4:6, God says, my people are destroyed for a lack of what? Knowledge. That's the first part of that verse. That's what A means, the first part. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And then God goes on and says, look, this is what you guys don't understand. All right, so let's graph it out. Ta-da! Isn't that cool graph? I made it myself. Well, I didn't. I used the graphics ability. But anyway, notice this is emotions, and that's all he has. Notice this is emotions. That's all he has, with a little bit of intellect. And then this one is kind of caught in the middle, almost. Not quite, but definitely here, he realized, this is where you go, I don't know shit. Hello, welcome to adulthood. I don't know nothing. That's right, you don't. That's where depression comes in. You start realizing what you don't, what you're missing. I mean, over here you can pretend. When do children lie the most? They make it up in their mind and they say that's the lie. And it's bingo right there. They lie their asses off. What happened to your ass? I lied it off. He just won't quit lying. And you got to tell him, don't lie. Don't be false. Tell the what? The truth. And the one they lie to the most is their parents. Now, of course, how many here did not do that when you were this age? You always told your parents the truth. Bullshit. Do you understand the situation? So why do we expect them, if we didn't do it, why do we expect them? We need to be their guidance. We need to be, I'm the oldest of 9 kids. Can you imagine what that's like? That, I still remember being this age, but now I got to take care of all those that are that age, and I'm like, they're right behind me. I got to make sure that they don't do the dumb shit I did. No matter what I try to do, they still did it anyway. I'm like, what's up with this? But understand, there's emotions, and they disappear. Nope, they still what? They're still there. Emotions still make our decisions for us. You ever look in your closet? How much stuff in your closet did you buy under an emotional decision. And there is no way in hell you're going to use them. But that moment you bought because it was cool. It was like great. Did anyone do that? Am I the only one that's got a guitar he's had for almost 20 years and never learned how to play? So I buy these things thinking one of these days, there's a problem there. I have all this emotions, but not enough intellect to go with. I know how a guitar works. I know what the strings do. I know what the letters are for the strings. I can pluck them. I can tune it, but that's about as far as I can go. You know that Chinese folk song, ting, twing, 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 twing. So this is the problem. This is where if I just make it up in my mind and I can convince people that's the truth, that's the truth. That's not how truth works. So what happens is this sticks with us. This is the longest part of our life because most of us make decisions and then we go back and change the history of our memories to match the decision we made. And that's scary. We think we remember, but we only remember what has an emotional what? Attachment. If it has an emotional attachment, we remember it. You can have two emotional attachments, negative or positive. Your memory is distributed by either a positive emotion or negative. If you start thinking negative, you will bring in all the negative memories and reinforce them. If you start thinking positive, then you bring in more positive thoughts of your past. All right, how many here have ever had a birthday? Nobody. Oh my gosh. How many ever had a Christmas? Is there any time you've ever received presents?
Yes.
All right. How many had presents? How many ever received presents at Christmas? One. Nobody else received. All right. Since you were mini people, rugrats, curtain climbers, okay? So how many presents have you received? Okay, give me 10.
A railroad, a car.
You got a full-size railroad?
Little one.
Oh, a model railroad, okay.
One, yeah.
And a car?
And a car, electric car, the car's to assemble. I got
There's two.
a house in the
Barbie house?
not a Barbie house, but a house in the tree, you know, like
Oh, a tree house,
a
okay.
tree house, yeah.
Okay, that's
I
three.
got that. I got a go-kart.
Got a go-kart, so we're up to 4 now.
A bike.
So how many have you got? Oh, got a bike. So, keep.
Motorcycle too.
You got a motorcycle too? 6. We got 4 more to go.
I have. What else I got?
You got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, but you can't remember because the only ones you remember are those that have an emotional what? Attachment. If you want someone to remember something, you got to give them an emotional what? Attachment. If you've got good things happening to you, you remember it because of the smiles and happiness. When bad things and you're sad, now, so that's why when you remember stuff, depending on how you remember it, well, go down memory lane this way or go down memory lane that way. Got it? And if you can make it up, you will. Lying is so much easier than changing things or changing yourself. Just tell people that's the way I am now without actually doing anything. Does that make sense? Now, what really happens, what's not shown, now that diagram I showed you, basically you find out in most cognitive sciences, this is how they break it up. But what they're missing is what AI can't have, and that's wisdom. The emotions are responded to immediately when you're given a decision to do. Like I asked you, raise your hand. You had 30 milliseconds, you made the decision. But then you thought about, oh, maybe Frank's playing a trick. Maybe he's trying to trick me. Maybe I should do just the opposite of what he's asking. Maybe I should raise the other hand than what I should. Remember? That's what I want. Remember how it went through your mind. So there's 30 milliseconds you make the decision, 300 milliseconds, but then you think about it. Then you act, right? That's 7 seconds. Emotion responses are 30 milliseconds. And when we're in a panic or when we're afraid, we immediately make these 30-millisecond decisions and we don't want to budge. Then we just try and find, like you ask a kid, what did you do? Nothing. Yes, you did. I saw that. What'd you do? Oh, yeah, I did it. Okay, why did you do it? Because, and that's as far as they go. So we spend our time from this age all the way up to here to come up with some elaborate because. We want a because. And we'll figure out some way to instigate the because. To justify. So we make the decision and then we use our intellect to justify it. Does everybody understand how this works? So the difference between this and this is we stop using this to justify our decisions. We stop making emotional decisions and start making a decision in wisdom. But it starts off like nothing, and you have to grow this. This is the difference between AI and you. AI no got this. AI only had this. It doesn't understand. Say, I want that person to be happy. All of a sudden, they give them a shot of dopamine, right? And they're like, hey, that's not what wasn't, but you got the happy, see? And that's how an AI thinks. That's not good. There's lack of wisdom there. So, for the Lord giveth what? Wisdom. Out of his mouth comes what? Knowledge and what? Understanding. Now, all scripture is theopneustos. God what? Breathing, right? God what? Breathing. So I want you to take a deep breath and then exhale. So you notice what orifice was used? Your eyeballs? Your mouth, right? So out of the mouth of God is where his word comes from. So God's word is theopneustos. God breathed. It is his word. Always has been. So that's where we get wisdom, knowledge, and what? Understanding. All right. So there's that which is at the 40,000 foot level, God's wisdom, seeing everything from a greater perspective. And then our emotional one, where we're in the grass trying to figure out what's going on. Right? Does that make sense? So now we go to the third alternative. Did I miss something here? Okay, there. Wisdom is, now let me back up on this one, because when you're here, if you asked him, do you know what a car is? You go, yeah. Do you know how to drive a car? Sure, you just sit there and turn the wheel. That's all he thinks is required. Right. Then he knows, no, you got to put the key in, because when you're not around and you leave your key in there, he's going to turn it on. And sometimes you have little kids that actually start the car up and then do what they always thought, just turn the wheel. They can't reach the brake, but they can turn the wheel. That's scary. But there's many instances of these little guys driving the car. What are they lacking in driving the car? Wisdom. They may have the knowledge, but they lack when to hit the brake, when to step on the accelerator. You understand? When to utilize all the... Now, if you're 30 years old and you're thinking like a 9-year-old driving a car, we got problems, right? So there's wisdom required. And the more experienced, now this is where a teenager comes in. He starts driving here because he's got more intellect than the younger ones. And then he gains in wisdom in driving a car. Does that make sense? It's the wisdom, not the knowledge. Knowledge, you got to take that knowledge and apply it. How many here have tried to, okay, how many here, if I said you wanted to have your own chickens, right? Your own eggs, right? Right, and this is what's funny. Not funny, but if you wanted to have your own eggs, right? You need to have, like, not your own eggs, but be able to have eggs to eat, right? You need, number one, a what? A chicken, right? And number two, you need a what? No, you don't need a rooster. Chickens will lay eggs without roosters. They just won't be fertile. But everybody thinks you've got to have a rooster to lay eggs. No, it has nothing to do with the eggs. If you want fertilized eggs, but she'll lay eggs like crazy. No rooster required. But that's what everybody thinks because you just got to have, that's how it works in life. No, we don't. A lot of reptiles and birds lay eggs, but if there's no male around, they're not fertilized, and so they don't hatch. They don't grow. But this is what we think because we just want the simple things, right? So we automatically assume. And that's where this is where the majority of our life is, right here, in this area here. How many women here, when you thought you got married, it was going to be forever after, happy, how do they go at?
Happily ever after.
Yeah, I'm going to be happy, what is it? Live happily ever after. Did it ever happen? Nope, not a single one that I know of. Including Patricia. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. It never works that way. But you don't want them to know it. Shh, don't tell them. That's why they have bachelor parties. You fool. Don't tell them that, though. And it's always the married men that take them out, right? It's like a big secret. So there's wisdom applied. And this is the hardest thing to gain because if you don't apply the knowledge and see the consequences of it and go through this, oh no, then you never learn. Now, you could ask an adult, someone who's already been through it, like, is this right or not? No, but you never do that. You ask someone who's also totally clueless like yourself. What do you think? Don't you agree with me? Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to do it. You ask someone who's got experience, but we don't like to do that. We like to ask some other dingwall who's totally clueless. What do you think? And you did it here, and you did it here, and you do it here. And you expect to have something miraculous happen because you have someone who agrees with you. That's not how it works. This isn't making sense. The best way is not to go by your own intellect or emotion, but to go by what God's word says. Why? Because it's like having someone who's 8,000 years old on your side, who's already experienced life and knows how it works, and understands the heart, the soul, the mind. That's where the winning is at. Got it? People say, why do you spend so much time? I said, because I can sit down and talk to scientists, neurosurgeons, cognitive scientists. I'm like, wow. And they're like, whoa, that's an awesome perception you have. Not mine, it's in the book. But it works and it fits with all cognitive sciences because it's real. So now here, what is the third alternative? Right? Now this is the hardest part. Now we covered some interesting things that you're going to find out when you take cognitive science in colleges, you start going and learning about the latest discoveries. You're going to sit there and go, I already know that. Right? I'm giving you from the insight from God's perspective on this. So you can say, yeah, that's true, but we got a problem. What are they missing? The wisdom, the greater perception of what's going on. So what we're going to be talking about now is choice. Right, you know how you make decisions, but how do you make a choice? I mean, you got the decisions, but how do you make the choice? A decision requires two things, yes? Mm-hmm. You have two things to choose from. You make a decision, right? And that's what I covered. You got emotions and you got what? All right, some of you don't, okay. You got emotions and you got what? Intellect, right? A 3-year-old child comes up and says, Mommy, I want a cookie. No, dinner's coming. No cookie. It'll spoil your dinner. And uses its what? Intellect. And draws a picture and says, I love you, Mommy. Says, Mommy, see, I love you. Aww. And puts it on the refrigerator. Can I have a cookie? Oh, sure. All right. So kids learn that. And when they can work their parent against another parent, they'll work the father against the mother. Well, Daddy said, when he didn't say anything, and said, and then they run over to Daddy and say, Mommy said that, can I? So they play the parents against each other. How many did that as children? Nobody? Okay, well, anyway. Come on. We do that to our bosses. So-and-so said. So this crap all goes on. And people sometimes never grow up. They still get caught in it. So now we understand decision. Decision is between choices, right? But now the question is, which choice do we make? How do we make choices? So we know it's intellect. We know it's what? Emotion. Okay. So how do you make a choice? You have a decision you have to make, but how do you make a choice? Because when you make the decision, you're choosing to go by your emotions or your what? Intellect. Got that? It's emotions or intellect. And now if I say to you, I want you to, on a count of 3, I'm going to give you a command. I want you to immediately, as quickly as possible, respond. Right? 1, 2, put out your hand. Okay? Nobody did it. All right? Y'all waited 7 seconds. What's the deal with this? I'm not putting out a trick. I want you to respond as quickly as possible. See, now you start thinking rather than going, yeah, here we go. Right? What I want to know is which one of your hands is your emotional hand? Which one is your intellectual hand? The one you raised is your intellectual hand. That means your other hand is your emotional hand. Got it? The things that you respond immediately with, like, oh, look, like for you women, oh, look at those shoes. Oh my God, I gotta have them. It's got the 6-inch heel, and it's sparkly, and it goes from blue to green when the light shifts. You're like, oh, right? I gotta have those shoes. Now you look in your closet and you got another pair just like them, but that's not the same type, right? And men go, ha ha ha! I'm glad I'm not a woman. Oh yeah, I got the same problem. You go into your toolbox. How many screwdrivers do you need? How many pliers do you got to have? Right? Yeah, but this one's got the special grip, and this one's got the yeah. Okay, but you understand that's what we are. And then when you go to watch television, you see the commercials. They're trying to trigger your intellect. No, trying to trigger your what? Emotions. You can't allow that. So understanding that you have this hand, that's your actions. The actions you take, the Bible talks about your hand, yes? Jesus went to lay hands on him. Well, he didn't lay hands, he just spoke. No, it just means action. Because there's many accounts where someone went to lay hands, he didn't lay hands. Like, what the heck? Then he says he laid hands on. He didn't lay hands on anybody. No. Idioma, right? Figure of speech. It means to take action. So your hands refer to the decisions you make, the actions you take. Got it? So we have one hand. On the one hand, you heard that phrase? Do you have it in Spanish, for those who speak Spanish? On the one hand, right? On the one hand, and we use that because that's embedded into us. When we read the Bible, we don't get it. On the one hand, there is the emotional desire to do or to have or to attain when? Now. That's why credit card, everybody goes by credit card because you can have it what? Now. You can have it now. You don't have to save up. You can have it now. And they trigger you. Where people, like, I use this credit card and look what I bought. I got it immediately. Right? That's what they're after. They're triggering the what? Emotions. They're trying to bring that child out in you. Don't grow up. Stay a child. I don't want to grow up. Right? On the one hand, there's the emotional desire to do or to have or to attain. All right, let me try one more time. On the one hand, right, there's the emotional desire to do or to have or to attain. Now. Yeah. But, on the other hand, what's our decisions? What's our choice? It's always one or the other. It's one or the other. One is emotional, the other one is what? Intellectual. On the one hand, there is the emotional desire to do, to have, or to attain. Now. She only knows that. Okay. People that use credit cards go, now. Right? Or let's start one more time. On the one hand, everybody show out your hand. On the one hand, right, there is the emotional desire to do or to have or to obtain now. Right, credit card people. Okay. But, right, on the other hand, that's your intellectual hand. That's your intellect. On the other hand, you think about the costs, the requirements, the consequences, the conditions, commitments, and sacrifices. I don't care. I want it what? Now. And that's what happens. I remember when I was a little mini person, rugrat. Well, I was bigger than a rugrat. I was more like a road runner. Anyway, little 6-year-old guy, 7-year-old. And, no, I was like 8 maybe. I don't know. But my mom, like I'm the old, at that time I'm the oldest of 5, which is intense. And my mom bought this banana cream pie. Oh my God, do I love banana cream. I love banana cream pie. I mean, that was like, I would do anything for a banana. Well, anyway, she bought a banana cream pie and brought it home. And I found it. And I saw it. And I was like, okay, I don't want a whipping. I don't want to get banana cream pie. No. Banana cream pie. Banana cream. Yeah, that's exactly what you're thinking. Like, okay, is it worth the whipping? You know what you want, and you want it what? Now. But on the other hand, there's the consequences, the cost of eating that banana cream pie, the requirements if I get caught with the consequences of eating that, and the conditions. Why didn't you share it with your brother and sister? What are you doing? And comments and sacrifices, right? All these things are required. How we make decisions without even consulting this. Because you want it what? Now! Right? Okay, here it is. Like, oh, shoot. But you got it now. Even though it's 21% interest on your credit card. 23, oh, I'm sorry. Hi, thank you. You're left-handed, aren't you? Anyway. All right. So, but you see the problem. That's why I say stick out your hand now, and you're like, and you stuck out the other. Okay, that showed me which is your intellect and which is your emotional one. Because we respond immediately within 300 milliseconds with our emotions. And it's triggered. You can see it in the brain. It's happening. The decision's already been made. Then the frontal cortex goes like crazy and goes, all right, why am I choosing this? What will be the, maybe I can, and that's where the brain,
Do I need it?
huh?
Do I need it?
Exactly. Do I need it? Right. Remember, it's that little kid going, I want it now. I want it now. And you're trying to be that adult saying, well, I don't know if I should have it. That's that left hand, right hand thing. So we have, on one hand, we have our emotions, and on the other hand, our what? Intellect. Okay. How many know exactly what I'm talking about, and others don't have a clue? Who knows exactly what I'm talking about? Who has experienced this, right? Now, we have a very young person in here, which is more mature than a lot of adults, and I'm really blessed she's here. But I want to make sure you got it, right? Because you're not normal, and neither am I. But I'm just saying. I just want to make sure I don't lose you, okay? But do you understand the magnitude of this? I'm giving you why you think the way you do. I'm giving you understanding why everybody else seems like they're lunatics. They're not. They're having the same problem you are. They're not synced with you, it's all. I've been married for a long time, and I realized that her and I are not synced at all. Right? It takes time. Maybe another 10 years, 20 years, I don't know. But it will get there. How many here are married? How many are in perfect sync with your mate? Bullshit, you are not. But it takes time. And there's nothing more intense than a woman who thinks the way she does, which is always astounding, and then the way we think, right? Which is like, no deviation, simple, straight, until we get to our tools. All right. I know this sounds crazy, but I'm just letting you know how we as human beings, you got to understand what it is to be a human being as a member yourself. Okay. So this one is what? Emotional, because you want it when? Now. And this one is the thinking one. It's the what? Intellect. It's one or the other. On one hand, but on the other hand, right? You've always got two hands. Has you ever woke up and have a third hand? If you have a third hand, it's not yours. All right. But because we have a left side and a right side of our brain, we have a right hand, we have a left hand, right? Everything is, by the way, what's this called in Latin? Dexter. What's this hand? Sinister. Mm-hmm. Sinister. The left side. So why is the left hand considered, because it deals with all that? It's like, oh, we don't want to talk about that. We just want it now. Got it? Cost doesn't matter. Oh, yes, it does. So this is making sense. One is emotion, the other was what? Do we have a third hand? Not that when I wake up, I don't. If there is, it's not mine. Right. So whose hand? So we only have two choices, our emotions, our intellect. Imagine a third hand. Where would it attach? But imagine if you could have a third hand. And imagine a third hand, not emotional, not intellectual, but built upon the combined wisdom of men who lived and worked with God for 8,000 years. You get to see all their mistakes, all the good things they made, and all the dumb shit they did. If you know that that's the wrong way to go, and you see the consequences of it, then you're not going to go there. Yes? 8,000 years is a long time. But boy, if you're 8,000 years old, you don't fall for anything. Because you got what? Wisdom. And you don't have a life of sorrow. You have a life that's exciting, thrilling, accomplishing growth and development. But what if you had a third hand? Rather than emotions and intellect, you had one more. Ta-da! The third hand. A third way to act than what you expect. It's not emotional, nor is it intellectual. Totally different. Now, when you do this, will it satisfy this and this? Yes, because it's of a higher what? But will this at first be disappointed? Yes. Will this one feel it's stupid? Yes. Both of them will respond accordingly. But it's seen from a higher what? Just like when you talk to a child and you want a child to do something. Oh, I don't want to do that. Do it anyway, right? It's better for you. Because you're speaking from a higher level of wisdom and understanding. So that's choice. Does that make sense? So now we're dealing with the third what? Alternative. So now I understand. Now try and remember the time where you made decisions. I mean, if you hadn't made any decisions last week, that's kind of strange, but I'm sure you did. Did you notice there was a difference between one and the other? Did you notice that there was an emotional, that you wanted it now? This is what you want to do. This is what I desire. And it's overpowering, just like me and that. Well, I didn't tell you what happened with the banana cream pie, did I? Okay. Right. What I did is when everybody was sleeping, I was laying in my bed thinking about it was in the refrigerator. Saw it. Well, if I take a little sliver of it, nobody will know. So I snuck out into the kitchen, Opened the refrigerator, took out the pie, and took out a knife and cut a really tiny sliver. And then pulled it out and ate it. Oh, it's so good! And I looked and I'm like, oh shit. You can tell someone, yeah, you can't squeeze it together. I go, oh no. So in my tremendous wisdom at that age, I realized that if they found out, either I had to get rid of that pie and throw it out, I have to I have to do something, right? I got to make a decision. I can either throw it out so no one knows I took a sliver, which seems like a terrible waste, or I could eat it all. So at 9 o'clock at night, oh, was it 11 o'clock at night, I decided to eat the whole thing. Now, being that age, my stomach is only about this big. But I ate the whole thing. At first, it was so delicious. And then, and as I got that last piece in my mouth, and I took the pan, left the house, because I didn't want her to find out, picked up all the stuff so it would be found in the trash can. I put it in the outside trash can, right? That way no one would know about it. My mom's watching me the whole time, right? What the hell are you? So I went home. I went, got back in the house, and I went to the lay down, and my stomach goes, hey, I want you to know I'm here, and I'm fed up with this. This is too much, and we're going to get rid of it. So I went to the bathroom, and all that beautiful banana cream pie was emptied into the toilet. My mother's hearing this the whole time. She knows exactly what's going on. So anyway, I flushed it, and I got it cleaned up and everything. And I got the terrible taste of, other than banana cream pie in my mouth. And I'm washing it out, and I just go to bed. In the morning, my mom says, what happened to the banana cream pie? And of course, being that age, I just said, what banana cream pie? There's a banana cream pie? Does anyone relate to what I'm talking about? You make up these stories hoping you can get away with it because you don't want the consequences. Remember the consequences? The costs, the requirements, the consequences, the conditions. Never thought of that when I was chowing down on it. When that little sliver was taken, boy, it was delicious. But by the time I got to that last piece that was it. I was sick as a dog, right? And sacrifices. So I got my ass really hot. Pow, pow. I don't know. It's not like changlas you guys got in Mexico, but it's pretty hot. Warms up your butt. All right, anyway. But there's emotions and what? Intellect. Everything is divided on one. But what if we could have that third hand? That's what you want. Because that's not your knowledge and wisdom. It's God's knowledge and what? And it has no emotions involved. Because emotions distort. How many ever got a pimple on your face? Right? Got a pimple? But if you don't mess with it and ignore it, it's no big deal. Hardly anyone notices it. But boy, when you dig in on it and twist it and try and thing turns out to be a frickin' nose. Now what? Just leave it alone. Right? Put a little dab of alcohol on it. But you see the problem? We focus so much on something that's irrelevant and so insignificant that all of a sudden it becomes this big thing, right? And our emotions do that. Banana cream pie. I must have. You understand? That's stupid. Anyone experience this stuff I'm talking about? I gotta have it now. No, you don't. No, don't bring me a banana cream pie. I don't eat it anymore. You'll never guess why. All right, Proverbs 3, 5 through 7, right? It says, trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not into thy own what? What's that talking about? Your intellect and what? Emotions. It's not part of that world. In all thy ways acknowledge him. Use his knowledge, not your own. And he will direct thy paths. Be not wise in thine own eyes. Don't think you got it together, because you don't. You're not old enough. Well, frankly, I'm 60 years old. I don't freaking care. Doesn't compare nothing to 8,000 years. It's like nothing. 0.0. Doesn't even count. You understand? God's a lot smarter than all of us put together, and multiply it by 1,000,000, right? Be not wise in thine own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from what? The word fear is focused. It means, like when the policeman says pull over, you don't sit there and say, did you hear something? No, you pull over, right? It's not fear. It's just you recognized authority that you respect and you respond. That has nothing to do with fear. You shouldn't be afraid unless you're doing something wrong. But anyway, be not wise in thine own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from what? Your focus should be on being right with God as his Azir. Is that making sense? All right, so what is this knowledge of wisdom and emotions and intellect? What is this? This is called evil. You know God's word and you go by your intellect or emotions, that is called what? Evil. Your own understanding is called what? Wise in your own eyes is called what? Now, I hired someone who was a member of my family, a relative, and guess what I did? He goes, teach me about computers. I said, all right. So I gave him a job, and I told him, don't go pulling cards in or out with the power on the machine. You don't do that. So he did it anyway, because he felt it was unnecessary to turn the power off. So he pulled cards in and popped it in with the power on. Pow, pshoo, pow. I go, what did you do? Did I tell him not to do that? Yes. Did I instruct him how to do it? Yes. But he had his own what? His own understanding. He was wise in his own eyes. So, but he's your relative. He's related to you. Yeah. He can work somewhere else. All right. So when we have gods, it has nothing to do with your intellect. It has nothing to do with your emotions. It's totally outside of it. Got it? It's going from the 40,000 foot level, looking at the whole scope of what's coming, what has been, and what is. Isaiah 55, 8, and 9. For my thoughts are not your what? What are you doing when you're going by your intellect or emotions? That's your what? That's your thoughts. And you're going to wind up in sorrow. You're going to make dumb mistakes. Why? Because you don't know enough. You're insufficient in your knowledge. But I am. Bullshit. The word is the priority. It has worked, will work, and will continue to work. Because it doesn't deal with that which is extraneous. It deals that which is in the heart, the soul, and the mind. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, said the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth. Well, how high is that? So are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. That's a big distance. That's a really big distance. God's not looking at a 40,000 foot level. Well, that was interesting. All right. We lost a graphic here. It was the globe. The earth was supposed to be there. Somehow we lost it. But anyway, that globe is how God sees it what? All. Wouldn't you like to have an access to the future? Wouldn't you like to be able to be prepared for no matter what happens? With God's wisdom, you can. And there's no sorrow, no emotions attached to it. It's just what God says, and it works. All right. You all set for a break? Okay, break time? bathroom, whatever? Want to take a 5-minute break? Oh, lunch break now. Okay. Now, what happens when we put all this together? What happens when we put it all together? I'm going to take you to the Bible and I'm going to help you explain what it is, the difference between one going by one's own intellect and emotions and what God has said and why God works every time. Would you like to see that? You know, a broken record, but it's very important. One hand is your what? That's why when I say stick out your hand and do it really quick, that's your emotional hand. That's how you express emotions. And if you stop and you think about it, you look at the other hand, that's your intellectual hand. Got it? Every action we take will either be responding by our emotions. Just a really quick response. And that's that 300 millisecond response. But the brain will interrupt and say, no. Now that little section there is where we make a decision. We go through what our parents taught us. We go through what our other people. Remember I told you about the hero, your parents, right? And then your child. You have to make that decision. You're the Azir. You're in charge. So I'm going to show you, whenever you see people going through a battle, it's because they're going by their right hand or their what? Now, according to the word, you don't put yourself in temptation. Temptation is to go by your intellect or your what? To where you have to make a decision in the environment you're placed. So you don't put yourself in that situation. Does that make sense? You try and circumvent it, detour around it, because if you know perfectly well that that's not where you want to be caught in that battle. That's called temptation. Now, if it overcomes you, God won't have you tempted above which you are what? To where you have to make an emotional, intellectual decision. So let me give you an example. We're going to use some mini people here. These little mini people have to make a decision, right? Now, if I was a person, and I don't want to play this game, right? But generally speaking, it's a battle, and there's two kinds of kids, and they did this test at Stanford University 20 years ago. And 20 years ago, they wanted to see what would happen with children and which ones would respond a certain way and where they would be 20 years later. And you tell me which one went on to be a corporate leader, which one came out to be a successful businessman, one went on to be a senator, and one became nothing more than a dishwasher at a restaurant, and the other one nothing more than what do you call it, a waitress. Not that those are bad, but that's their whole life. That's all they could attain. So let's watch, see if you can determine which one's which, what battle is going on, and who wins, which hand wins. That's not what I want.
Okay, sit in that chair. Alright, here's the deal. Marshmallow, for you. You can either wait, and I'll give you another one if you wait, or you can eat it now. When I come back, I'll give you another one, so then you'll have two. But stay in here and stay in the chair till I come back, okay? Alright.
Ah.
I'm gonna go do something, and then I'll come back.
It's yummy, yummy. It's really good.
You can have it now or you can wait. Okay? I'll be back. Stay in the chair, okay? Okay.
Reminds me of my banana cream pie.
Alright, so I'm gonna leave and then I'll come back, okay? So you can either eat it right now or you can wait. Either way, okay? Okay. How'd you do? You do good? You did? You wanted to eat it, didn't you? Yeah. So did I tell you to give you another one? Okay, now you can have both.
That's called delayed gratification. The battle between the right hand and the left. The intellect, what you want, but can you hold off and get more later on? Some of these became to be business executives, doctors. Some became nurses. Some became waitresses. Because it all depends on the person's ability to not let their emotions dictate it. Because emotions tell you you want it what? Now. But what is the word? The word's totally different. The word's not even talking about that. So when we deal with decisions, that's the emotional side and what? And you saw the battle with the children. They were trying like, I can get two if I can just hold off, and gone, right? Others are like, okay, all right. But it's always in front of them, which is the hardest thing to do because you're always seeing it. And every time you see it, you want it, right? And this is a challenge. Anyone experience this? The object is just try not to be around it all so much. Like, I don't want to see a banana cream pie ever. But you understand, this is the problem we're always facing. That's why temptation is to get you to go by your what? Emotions or your intellect. Because the word is neither. It's neither one of these. That's your brain. All right. When you go by you know the word and you go by your intellect or emotions, you're going to get in trouble. So you've got to be able to trust in the Lord with how much of your heart? All, right? Thou shalt agape the Lord with all your heart, all your soul, all your what? So that's the reality, not what's around you. Now in the military, you're saying, okay, the enemy's over there. I don't see him. Doesn't matter. He's there. No, I don't see any enemy. And all of a sudden, whoa, someone just shot at me. Right now, okay, there's proof that there's someone over there with a gun aiming at me, right? So there's this thing about because you can't see it and you really don't have any physical evidence doesn't mean it's not real. When's the last time you saw bacteria? Is it real? Yes, it is. But you've never seen it. You can experience the consequences of not acknowledging it, but again, it's very real, even though you've never seen it. Unless you got a microscope. God's thoughts are way above our emotions and our intellect. All right, so let's give it a scenario. I'm going to ask you, you're in charge of 300 men, right? You're in charge of 300 men. The enemy is an alliance between two nations, Amalekites and Midianites, totaling 135,000 men. They're coming to get you. What do you do? You understand the problem? Now what I'm showing you is the emotional, the intellectual, and then God's solution, which is totally different. God gives you the third what? God gives you the third what? Alternative. And this is what you've got to recognize in your life, because people get revelation from God and they dismiss it because it doesn't agree with their intellect or their emotions. You have 300 men. The enemy is an alliance between two nations, which are both your enemy. They join forces. The Amalekites and Midianites, totaling 135,000. You've got 300 men. What do you do? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Run like hell. Right? How did I get in this? Get me out of this situation. That's emotions. I'm scared. I don't want to die. This is suicide. It's not going to work. And I've seen that. My first time in combat, the guy lost it. Instead, I'd take an axe and start throwing it at us. I'm like, we're not the enemy, dude. Get them out of here. But people get emotional. They do stupid things. How many have ever been emotional and did something stupid? I got a dent in our garbage can because I lost my temper one time. What did the garbage can do? Not a damn thing. So what did it do? Nothing. So why has it got dent in it? Because Bozo went by his emotions and got angry. Does that make sense? Well, Frank never gets that. Bullshit. I do too. I'm a human being, right? Anyone here not a human being? Please. If you are, please leave if you're not a human being. I'm an alien. All right, now. What would your emotions dictate? You got 300, you and 300, you're 301 men, all right? You and 300 people. The enemy is an alliance between two nations, which happen to be, really hate you. Amalekites and Midianites, totaling 135,000. What would you do? What's the first thing your emotion says? Run like hell. Get out of there, right? That's emotions. All right? So what does your intellect tell you? It's suicide, right? But I can take out as many as I can. Wow. They're going to try to do suicide missions. Maybe some guys will find a way to get them. But the problem is, when you pull that kind of crap, and using your intellect, you're going to do something stupid. Like, your object here is each person has to kill 450 people. So how is one person going to kill 450 people? They don't got machine guns back then. No machine gun. So this is a real and difficult situation. So what do you do? So I'm going to show you the difference between going by emotions, intellect, and the third what? The third alternative. All right? Let's go into Judges chapter 7. Judges chapter 7. I don't know, how many have ever had one person want to kill you? How many ever had two people want to kill you? How about 135,000 wanted to kill you? Would that, dampen your enthusiasm a little bit? So in Judges chapter 7, verse 16, it says, and he divided, this is by God's giving him the alternative, right? He divided the 300 men into three companies. All right, so 3 into 100 is what? 300 is what? 100, right? And he put, you ready for this? A trumpet in every man's hand. Now, if you're going to be facing 135,000, you need to have something, you would think you'd want to have some intense armor or something, or some massive sword, right? If you're going to go into combat, you want to be able to handle this. So here you are. So someone read it for me. What does it say? Verse 16, what does it say?
And he divided the 300 men into three companies.
All right, as God gave him the third what? Take your 300 men, divide them into three parts, 100 apiece, right? Right, so you're one of the 100 and you're standing there ready to fight the enemy. You got to take out how many? 450. But it will be a battle, a glorious battle, right? So you're staying there and you're ready to go into combat. And Gideon comes down, and what does he do?
And he put a trumpet in every man's hand.
He put a trumpet.
With empty
And then he put a pitcher, a clay container with a handle. And in there he put a what?
Lamps within the picture.
And he put a torch in there. So, now how would you feel? Ready for combat? What's wrong with this picture? This makes absolutely freaking no what? No sense. This is like suicide. What am I going to do? Blow out their eardrums? Hit them over the head? What is this all about? This makes no sense. And if you're staying there with your 100 to go into battle, and they give you a freaking trumpet and a container, clay container with a torch in it, you go, you ready? Like, you've got to be kidding me. What am I supposed to do with this? I told you, God's thoughts are not what? Our thoughts. His ways are not what? Our ways. When you read the Bible, watch the difference between someone's intellect and emotion and what God is telling them to do. It has no similarity. I already asked you what you would do. How would you fight the enemy? So he's got this pitcher, this trumpet, and a pitcher, and what does it say?
And he said unto them, Look on me, and do likewise. And behold, when I come to the outside of the camp, it shall be that as I do, so shall ye do. When I blow with a trumpet,
Okay.
and I and all that are with me, then blow ye the trumpets also on every side of all the camp, and say, The sword of the Lord and of Gideon.
That sounds ridiculous. That sounds suicidal. That sounds absolutely absurd. Yes? It makes no sense by your emotions, and it makes no sense by the intellect. Totally is ridiculous. Huh? It's like, hey, I'm here. Do-do-do. Can you see me? Do-do-do-do. There I am. Doesn't that look like that? And to make sure that they see you, you're going to take this and smash it so that the oil goes everywhere and there's a flame so they can't miss you. And you're going to blow the trumpet too. Is this like smart? But God's a lot what? Smarter. This is why when I say clear your mind, right? Clean your room. Get rid of everything else and only focus on God. What God says you are, what you have with God, God being around in you, and as that becomes a reality to you, then God will show you what to do. Does that make sense? Got it? And you need to practice it, because when the time comes you're too emotional, you're not going to be able to do it. Or you're too intellectual, you won't be able to do it. And with practice, it becomes easier and easier. And then just do what God says to do. Does that make sense? So what happened? Continue reading.
So Gideon and the 100 men that were with him came unto the outside of the camp in the beginning of the middle watch. And they had...
Whoa, the beginning of the middle watch. What time is that? The middle watch is between 12 and 4. Somewhere around there, night, they came in. What's everybody doing? They're sawing logs, right? They're doing the, listening for buffalo thing, And they're on the ground, they're all sleeping. And he comes in with his 100 men, and he blows a trumpet. Doo-doo! He smashes the thing, so the flames are everywhere, and everybody's smashing their stuff, and they're blowing their trumpets, right? At, say, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, whatever. Beginning of the middle watch was probably about 1 o'clock at night. The people are freaking out. They get out of there. Now, do the Amalekites and the Midianites speak the same language? No. Do they dress the same way? No. Did they used to be enemies? Yes. Do they trust each other? No. But they are combined together to fight Israel. Does God know this? Yes. So as a result, they're going, doo, 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 and they're smashing it. The sword in the Lord to Gideon. The guy's getting out of his bag, pulls out his sword, and he's like, what? And all of a sudden the guy comes out with his sword and goes, and he goes, hush, what now? No, and they start splashing and slashing and cutting and sawing, and the guy's blowing the horn. Now all the guys are coming out of this tent, tearing each other apart. Blow your horn. Not going into combat. What happened? I got a sore lip from blowing the horn. What did they have to do? Nothing. Did they get injured? Maybe they got a sore lip. And yelling, maybe they got a little hoarse from yelling. But no one died. And everybody else was wiped out. What's the difference between your emotions and intellect and God's? What would you have done? See the difference? God's smarter, sharper. But the thing is, we hear from God and go, that is stupid. And we do what we feel is right or what we think is right. And we kill the revelation. We kill it. Because we're smarter than God. And we suffer the consequences. Everything in God's word is superior. How many have ever heard of the Afghanese, right? Now, the Afghanese people, Afghanistan is called the graveyard of empires. Every nation that's attacked Afghanistan has been destroyed. Starts with Alexander the Great. And also, as Persia attacked it, it was destroyed. Same thing that happened to the English Empire. It just got destroyed. Russia tried to take it. They got destroyed. The United States tried to take it, and we got destroyed. We lost everything. What's with Afghanistan? Afghanistan is not Muslims. There's a whole bunch of people. There's Sikhs. There's Christians, ancient Christians, like really ancient. They live by the scriptures. They speak Syriac or they speak Aramaic. They don't even speak, Greek or Latin. They just, that whole Bible is written in Aramaic. There's Muslims. There's Sufi. There's Shiite. There's a whole mix, and they all respect each other. But one thing they won't do is submit to something who thinks it's higher than God. Period. Whether the Christians are there, the Muslims are there, the Sufi, the Shiites, Sunnis, all of them, the Hindus. There's Hindus there. So people say, well, these guys are really evil. No, they're not. Then how can they live next to each other and not kill each other? So a lot of this stuff doesn't make sense. And you can go to the CIA page and find out about Afghanistan. And you find that they're not like everybody makes them to be bad. But why did we attack them? Because they had minerals we needed, rare earth elements. And we never got it. We lost more money going there than we could have ever gotten by pulling out their resources. Nobody gets Afghanistan. Now guess who thinks they're going to take Afghanistan? China. Now they're going to take it. And they're going to get their asses kicked. What does Afghanistan have that no one else has? They live by the principles of God's word. The Muslims, the ancient Christians that are there, the Shiite, the Sufi, they're all living by the scriptures. There are scriptures where they all coincide, they all agree. Where there's differences, that's different. But they all respect each other and stand together. That's intense. There's no centralization. Of all the hundreds and hundreds of tribes there, they're all independent. They all have their own chief. They all communicate and share. It's amazing. They cannot be taken down. By the greatest empires, no one can take them down. And their wealth, that's a gift from God. No one touches it. Nobody. Like, what do you do with these people? They will not submit. And they never lose. Greater forces, more power, more military, and they cannot be taken down. They're called the graveyard of all empires. So, can we learn from this? Yes. We can learn from where it is that they do that which is right with the scriptures and apply it ourselves to get the same what? Results. So when America pulled out, what they were left with? $300 billion worth of value. and then reserve it. Pardon? Well, no, that's the whole problem. We labeled them that way, but that's not according to the CIA's book. That's not according to the truth. That's the media buildup. So I don't trust the media. How many of you have ever met some Afghanis? Have you ever met them? Talked to them? They are honest. They are sincere, and they strive to be godly. They stand approved before their God. Now they have their own scriptures, whether it be the Syriac manuscripts from the Christians, Aramaic, or they have the Quran, or they're Hindus, but they're all Afghanis who they had to stand against. Can you imagine standing against the United States government? How would you survive being in a little country like that? The same way you just survived against the English, the same way you survived against the Persians, the same way you just survived against Alexander the Great. You can't be taken down. What does it require? It has a heart, a vision, a purpose, a focus, and following what you know inside of you to be right according to your scriptures. And you don't budge from it. Well, they know as much as you? No. But are they applying more than you? The answer is yes. The object here is to apply more of the scriptures. If they know, by the way, you know what they call the scriptures? Whether it be Shiite, Sunni, Jewish. I mean, there's Jews there too, by the way. Ancient Jews. Christians, they're all there. They don't call the Bible scriptures. They call it God's breathings. There's the breathings of men, and then there's God's breathings. So when I'm talking about this, the third alternative, the greatest military forces have been crushed by a band that only lives by the breathings of their God. And they respect and care for each other. And that's pretty intense. So did they win? Yeah. They faked out them. They totally messed with them. And you'll see the accounts over and over again, the same situation. There's no way. Jephthah, my gosh, Jephthah the king, his whole place was surrounded. He's in a fort, right? He's outnumbered like 10-1. I forget what the ratio was. They're all waiting for him. They're all going to storm and take him out. And he goes to God and says, God, what do I do? And God says, and these are like 3 nations all come together to wipe him out. And you can look under Jeff, you can read the account. Do you know what he did? He took the bravest people and had them all line up, have the musicians blowing the trumpets, had dancing girls in the front dancing. Jehoshaphat, that's right, Jehoshaphat. So he then had everybody singing songs and cheering. Then they opened the door and went out dancing and singing. And the enemy looked at it and went, we lost. And as they kept coming out, dancing and singing, they said, we're on your side, see? And he killed the other guy, and they killed each other. And they wiped each other out. How's that work? It's called psychological warfare. Make people believe something that's not true. Pardon? Jericho. Man, you sit back and go, what the heck happened? God's a lot what? Well, is there such a thing of a bridge falling down because people had a certain rhythm as they were on it and it caused the bridge to collapse? Yes. You get a certain frequency going and you get a whole bridge to collapse, a whole building to collapse. And if you have that many people marching around the city, each marching like this, then you cause a vibration and the walls come what? Down. Is God smarter than us? Yeah. Did you enjoy the marshmallow test? How many understand what that's like to sit there and see something that you want really bad? And you're like, well, I'll just taste it a little bit. Smell it. Take a little piece. For my thoughts are not what? Your thoughts. Prepare If God gives you the most ridiculous, absurd thing, and that's honest from God, you're like, that's ridiculous. That's stupid. What do? Do it. One of the proofs that it is of God is the fact that it doesn't line up with your intellect and emotions. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, said the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than what? Your thoughts. It's about being a more than conqueror. Not by your intellect or emotions, but by doing it God's way. The third alternative. How many have ever done what God said to do and was shocked at the results? And then didn't go back and do it that way. You went by your intellect and emotion ever since then. Anyone else do that? Why? Because that's what we're familiar with. Break your familiarity. Keep pushing and pushing so you do more and more of it from God's perspective. Does that make sense? The third alternative works greater than my intellect or emotions. Why does it work? Because God's got a much greater vision than you or I ever could dream of. Proverbs 3, 5, and 7. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart. What's your heart? That's your perception of what? Reality. Your soul is your identity. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart. Lean not to thy own what? Understanding. In all thy ways. How many of thy ways? Well, I'll do this part for God, but I want to do this the way I think it should be done. No, it won't work. You got to do it how many ways? His way, all of it. Be not wise in your own eyes, but I am smart. Not compared to God, you're not. Reverence, respect, focus on God, and depart from evil. Your own wisdom, your own understanding. Isn't that cool? People say, well, that person's been so evil to me. What are they going by? What's evil? Their perception. They wouldn't act the way they do unless they perceive the way they did. You and I are not subject to that, are we? Do I see you like everybody else sees you? No, I see you as God sees you. And you are beautiful. Really. Ask God, he'll tell you. God, am I really beautiful? Put your face in here. God will have the third what? Someone came to me and they said, when I was in Tennessee, this is when I was first going to school to learn to be an AT, aviation electronics technician. I was teaching the word, and I was at the college as an instructor, and this one person came to me and said, I need some help. I go, what's the matter? She goes, I can't pay my bills. I have 2 children. I don't know what to do. So I'm like, oh boy. Okay, so I taught her how to go to God, and God showed her to put on her nurse's uniform. She hadn't been a nurse like for 6 years since her first child. And so now she's 6 months pregnant again. It's her third child, and she's 6 months pregnant. And she's going to go, and God showed her, put on your uniform. Of course, it didn't fit. And go to this hospital. That's ridiculous. God showed her that. But she wasn't sure which hospital, so I drove her around. And I said, is this it? And she goes, yeah, that's it. Okay, so I lent her some money for her to get the adjustment on her nurse's outfit. And then when she said, okay, you asked God when to go, and she goes, okay. And all of a sudden I get a phone call, take me now. I said, all right. So I took her down there. I was praying to God for her. I was like, is there anything else going on? And then she got out of my car and she went in to go to work. And she reported to the head nurse, I'm here to go to work. And she goes, okay, go up to the 2nd floor. What's your name again? Okay, and she writes her name in there. And she said, can you come back early the next day? So she said, yeah, I can come in early. And so she stayed late. She did all the work. And she did this like for 4 weeks. And the paychecks came and went, and she didn't get a paycheck. And the people were like, why did you get a paycheck? She was doing an outstanding job. In fact, she's up for promotion, but she never got a paycheck. And every day she's coming back, she goes, Frank, I'm really nervous. I go, did you go to God? Yeah, okay, she went to God. And then all of a sudden she comes up and they find out she's never been hired. Yet she does better work than any 2 or 3 nurses there. So they had to make a decision because she wasn't hired. And she's 6 months pregnant. So they fired 2 people and kept her. All benefits paid for, everything. That makes no what? No sense. How does it work? Go by what God tells you. You have access to God. Use it. I don't tell you what God says to you to do. That's between you and God. All I can do is prepare you to go to God. Teach you how to go to God. And then when God tells you, just do exactly what he says. Does that make sense? Well, does God a respecter of persons? No. Is he a respecter of age? No. He's a respecter of heart. How many have got the right heart? All right, well, I'm done. Anyone else got the right heart? That's why you're here, isn't it? To understand and know God. That makes you the perfect candidate. God provides the third what? Alternative. Will it fit your intellect and emotions? No. If you had the idea to go in and just dress up and as if you were already an employee and just walk in, would you done it? Has God blown my socks off? Yeah, every single pair. It never stops. It always amazes me. It's hard to do what God says sometimes. It's really difficult. Like, all right, God, that's what you said. Okay. And you just do it. And it works. The object is to get yourself in the position to hear from God. That's the hard part. It's your brain. It's fired up. Intellect or emotions. Or you can do the third alternative. That's the true way of life. So you have how many hands do you have? 3. The only one that people can see is the 2, but you've got a third hand, and God will give you a hand. So God's there to give you the knowledge and wisdom that no one else can have if you let him. So Father, I thank you for the greatness of your word, and I thank you for the great privilege of helping your people understand and know your word, that they can make the right decisions by your guidance, that it won't be by their intellect or emotions, but by the truth of your word, that in every situation they can be more than conquerors, in every challenge they can be the victor. So I thank you for all that is about to approach and all things that are coming, that we can rise above every challenge because we are in your shadow and we're doing our utmost to walk in the footsteps of your firstborn from the dead, our risen and returned Lord Jesus, your anointed. Okay, you are God's what? Best. Mwah! I love you.